A major bridge collapsed in Baltimore early today after it was hit by a container ship, sending several vehicles plunging into the water below. Rescuers were searching for survivors after the ship collided with a pillar supporting part of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which carries the Interstate 695 over the Patapsco River southeast of the Baltimore metropolitan area. And apparently, 6 people are still missing from this catastrophe. And the Supreme Court today heard arguments today in a high-stakes challenge to the Food and Drug Administration's drug approval process. At the center of the argument was the abortion pill, mifepristone, and whether access to the pill should remain. The conservative majority court seemed skeptical of the plaintiff's case. Now, this drug is part of a 2-drug FDA-approved regimen for the majority of abortions nationwide. And the Ronna McDaniel era at NBC News has come to an abrupt and chaotic end. Facing an extraordinary on-air revolt by its leading stars, NBC's top news executive said just about 30 minutes ago that they had decided to cut ties with McDaniel, the former chairwoman of the Republican National Committee, who was hired just last week as an on-air political commentator. Her tenure lasted a short 4 days. And as the campaign for the White House intensifies, Vice President Kamala Harris has been thrusted to the forefront of President Biden's efforts to maintain and grow young and minority voters, groups that are vital to his reelection, but according to some, may be losing their enthusiasm. This month, VP Harris has championed a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants in Nevada, discussed marijuana legalization in the White House with rapper Fat Joe, and called for a ceasefire in Gaza at a commemoration of Bloody Sunday in Alabama. Washington Governor Jay Inslee, a Democrat, has signed a law last week that includes a mandate for the state's public schools to teach LGBTQ history, as red and blue states continue to diverge on whether schools should expose kids to gay and transgender identities. Now, this law mandates that the state school districts adopt a curriculum that is as culturally and experientially diverse as possible. 6 other states, including California, New Jersey, Colorado, Oregon, Nevada, and Illinois, have also enacted similar laws. And as music producer Sean Diddy Combs finds himself in more trouble after yesterday, two of his homes, one in Los Angeles and one in Miami, was raided by Homeland Security officers. One of his lawyers has released a statement today saying that Combs is innocent. He has not been arrested. No one in his family has been arrested, and that he looks forward to having his day in court so that he can prove his innocence. A music producer who filed a lawsuit against Combs last month is also now accusing Cuba Gooding Jr. of sexually harassing and assaulting him. This plaintiff filed an amended federal complaint on Monday in a U.S. District Court in Manhattan. And today, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill that will prohibit children younger than 14 from joining social media in the state. Those who are 14 or 15 will need a parent's consent before they join a platform. The minor could be awarded up to $10,000 in damages, according to the bill, if a company fails to basically cancel them from their social media site, and companies that fail to discharge underage children can be sued on behalf of the child who creates an account on a platform. And within the span of 1 hour, one court yesterday rescued Donald Trump from potential financial ruin, while another set a trial to start in the height of the campaign season. The presumptive Republican presidential nominee rolled with a rapid twist yesterday with his usual defiance and bluster. In split seconds, attacking one set of judges and praising another, ignoring reporters that suddenly pivoting to address them, brushing off heckles and welcoming cheers from onlookers along the streets. This is the news of the day, and this is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I am happy to be in conversation with Sharon Reed, a journalist and TV host on the network, in the Black Network. And Rashad Frazier Gaines is here for this hour. He's the founder of Black Progressives, and he is the founder of Biblical Justice Initiative with the Church of God in Christ. So happy to get both of their takes on today's breaking and trending news. And in hour two, you know what we do? That is that hour where we go deeper, where we dig behind those headlines and we bring you those stories that people are talking about. Well, even though the awards season is mostly over, there are two films that have significance for the 2024 election. And in hour two today, two of my favorite film critics will be here to give their expert analysis and opinions on two biopics on iconic civil rights leaders who helped to shape this nation and whose legacy will indeed have an impact on the 2024 election. If you haven't seen these two movies, and I'm talking about Rustin and Shirley, make sure you check them out and make sure you stick around for hour two, because we're going to be talking about Black iconic civil rights leaders and the actors who are playing these iconic leaders in these blockbuster movies, Rustin and Shirley. But before I bring on my guests, here's what I'm thinking in real time. I just want to give a great big shout out, a bravo, a kudos, a high five, a pat on the back, a handshake, whatever it is you do to tell people that you are happy about what they did. And that is to the hosts, the anchors, the talent at MSNBC. Because only in America can someone lead a revolt, be a part of an effort to subvert our democracy, to overturn a legitimate election for the president, engage in just the most outlandish lies about election fraud, about voter fraud, gaslight the nation, and then go and get a job paying $300,000 on a major network. Well, that's what happened to Ronna McDaniel. And you will remember Ronna McDaniel, before she was Ronna McDaniel, was Ronna McDaniel Romney. She's related to Mitt Romney. But when she went to work for Donald Trump and the Republican National Committee, of course, by then Donald Trump hated Mitt Romney. So he didn't want anyone working for him with that name. So I don't know if Ronna hated the name Romney before, but clearly to go to work for Donald Trump, she dropped the Romney in her name. So this is the woman that led the National Republican Committee until she was kicked out and Donald Trump brought in his daughter-in-law, because, by the way, Donald Trump is loyal to no one. And when he's done using you up, he discards you like gum on his shoe. And so when he was done with Ronna McDaniel, he decided fire her, bring in his daughter-in-law. But what did Ronna do? She ran right over to CAA, big talent agency right here in New York, LA, across the country, and started shopping. They started shopping her around to different networks so that she could be a political analyst. And some big shots at NBC got the bright idea that in order to give their audience a balanced analysis leading up to the election, they needed a Republican voice. So they didn't go get what we traditionally think of as Republicans, or what they call now the Ronald Reagan Republicans, or Republicans who have acknowledged that Donald Trump lost the election, Republicans who are working or who have worked in government to try to work alongside Democrats to get something done for this country, Republicans who have some degree of sanity, even though you may not agree with their policies. Oh no, that's not who they thought was important, or an important voice to have on the election coverage that they're going to do throughout this year. Somebody thought it was a good idea to hire Ronna McDaniel, to give her a job on NBC and across its networks, including MSNBC. Now, the obvious question would be, how come Ronna McDaniel just didn't go over to Fox News? That's where her politics are. That's the people that she aligns herself with. That's, the rhetoric that she talks, the lies that she tells. That's where you can find that rhetoric and those lies. So it seemed like Fox would be a perfect place for her. But oh no, maybe NBC was offering more money. Who knows? Maybe Fox wasn't interested in her because Donald Trump had discarded her. So maybe they didn't want his leftovers. So in any event, she starts her tenure, her 4-day tenure on Meet the Press, the marquee show for NBC, the Sunday morning shows where people were very serious about politics tune in. So here's a woman who has said, since she's been aligned with Donald Trump, wouldn't acknowledge Joe Biden as the legitimate president. But all of a sudden on Sunday with Kristen Welker, she's now saying, oh, yeah, Joe Biden won the election. And Kristen herself had to say, well, wait a minute, days before, and Kristen gave a disclaimer saying, I didn't know that my network was hiring her. I didn't know she had been hired before because this interview had been booked weeks in advance. And then Chuck Todd, no matter what you think of Chuck Todd, he went to work on Ronna McDaniel, said she had absolutely positively zero credibility. He was very concerned that his network executives would even hire her, given the rhetoric that she spewed, given the threats that she has made alongside Donald Trump, how much trash she's talked about MSNBC and journalists. And then if that wasn't enough, come Monday morning, or Joe and Mika on Morning Joe, they went in on Ronna. Throughout the day, every show going in on Ronna, and then the biggest star on the network, Rachel Maddow. 29 minutes yesterday, 29 minutes she dedicated to telling her bosses all the reasons that Ronna McDaniel should never, ever, ever be on their air. So much so that the MSNBC president had to call all of their talent and say, look, you don't have to book her. They thought that would be enough, but obviously not. And the backlash and the firestorm was so great that today, as we were about to go on air, the news breaks that Ronna McDaniel is no longer employed by NBC, MSNBC, or at this point, any network that we are aware of. And I just, again, want to give it up to that talent on MSNBC that went to bat, that put their own jobs perhaps at risk by criticizing their bosses, but who came together almost like a union and almost like a big rally, all speaking in one voice about how dangerous it would be to have this woman who has told so many lies to come on and now talk to the public about anything, and particularly about this very critical election. And it just makes you think about, remember when NBC hired Megyn Kelly and told us she was going to be the next Oprah, gave her a daytime show, gave her a weekend show, gave her everything on the network? That lasted about a year because they had forgotten that Megyn Kelly was pretty much a racist, had said so many racist things, including telling kids, get over it. Santa Claus ain't black, he's white. Of course, everybody knows that. And then remember when ESPN hired Rush Limbaugh, they thought he should, be a commentator on Monday Night Football. And he's sitting there with two other black sports analysts and questions Donovan McNabb, a black quarterback. And the black analysts wanted to go under the table. I don't know what network executives think. I've never been one. But I can tell you, as a matter of fact, and based on the facts that we just saw, the evidence that we just saw, it's not just black folks who are tired of watching mediocre white people fail up. And in the case of Ronna McDaniel, it's pretty clear that apparently a whole lot of white folks as well are tired, sick and tired of folks like Ronna McDaniel failing up. Bye, Ronna. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough.
Psst. Hey, I have a secret. I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant because more than just my armpits stink.
Oh, can I use it where my bra rubs under my...
Oh, yeah.
And what about down there? You know, my...
Totally. 4 out of 5 gynecologists would recommend it. So I tried it, and now I get 72 hours of freshness from my pits to my...
Ooh, I love that it's a spray.
Me too. And it comes in sticks and creams too. Go get your Secret Whole Body Deodorant.
Tax Talk with Straight Talk.
You give and you give. This tax season, you get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data and a Samsung Galaxy A14 included when you buy an extended silver unlimited plan. So you can give your janky phone to your kid. Yeah!
Switch to Straight Talk. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com. Device offer ends 4/14/24. Taxes and fees apply.
If you're looking for the most epic place on Earth, let's start at the base of a massive waterfall. Then trek through the thick jungle. Then climb to the peak of a snowy mountaintop. Then once you get there, keep going. Because with intelligent 4x4 and 7 drive modes and a Nissan Pathfinder, the search is the real adventure.
Available feature. Intelligent 4x4 cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions.
We are back, and today we are tracking today's breaking and trending news with Sharon Reed and Rashad Frazier Gaines. Sharon, I couldn't wait to talk to you about this story. Having worked in newsrooms throughout your career and being a journalist and TV host, what did you make when you learned that NBC had even hired Rona McDaniel?
More of the same. And by the way, your opening act has me just so energized and excited because this is what I love to talk about. You're right. They did a brilliant job. They stuck together, the host at MSNBC, including Joy Reid. But I will say this, had they just been, not just, but people of color sitting as the host, wouldn't have happened. Remember when Don Lemon gave Vivek Ramaswamy the grilling he deserved, and the criticism that followed from these supposedly woke leaders who just don't get it. I wish for once, Areva, that the litmus test would be who followed a disgusting racist. Why is that not the litmus test for who gets hired? I see Alyssa Farah Griffin. I see Stephanie Grisham. I see Mike Pence being interviewed. I see Mr. Short, his chief of staff, being interviewed, as if they didn't sit by idly, okay, and follow a racist who said outlandish things, a declared rapist. But let's just stick with race. On the one hand, I'm cheering them on. I'm so grateful. It goes to show who's in that corner office making these really dingy decisions. Nobody's talking about silencing competing opinions. We're talking about people who don't deserve the paycheck. And you know what? Yeah, she's embarrassed. 4 days, $300,000, and probably was a 2-year deal. She probably got every cent of that money. So I don't know. Have you ever walked to the unemployment line with that much cash on hand?
Yeah, you're right. We know how these deals work, and they were happy to give her that money to run as far away as they can because the fallout may not be over. Rashad, there may be some upper level management heads that are going to roll as they should, because as Sharon said, there are so many Republican voices, conservative voices. So yeah, I agree. If you're NBC, you want to have both sides. If you want to do that, Chris Christie probably is looking for a job. He broke with Donald Trump. We would even take the woman that just ran for president. Can't even think of her name right now. But there's so many other voices. When you see this kind of thing happening, what goes through your mind?
Actually watched Rachel's monologue last night, and I remember sitting there and I was like, wow, like you're on air going off on your bosses. Like, as a black guy, I'm pretty bold, but it's some things that I'm not doing because I'm going to be fired, right? Like, there are some things that black people can't do in America, and when we do, you know what happens to us. But I'm actually bothered by them actually firing her, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because 8 years ago, 8 years and 2 weeks ago, Melissa Harris Perry was fired from MSNBC for a memo that she wrote to her colleagues, pretty much telling them she didn't like the way that they were treating her, right? And then we have literally every white anchor and host on the network giving their bosses the business, and they get what they want. I just wish, as Sharon was saying, she's talking about this litmus test. I just wish things were fair. Like, I wish we actually did live in a post-racial society where we are all judged by the same rubric.
No, to your point, yes, we do. And if it were fair, Rona wouldn't have gotten the job, because
Right.
in a fair society, she has nothing to offer, and she would have to reverse herself on pretty much every position that she has taken. So set aside race, whether that person is black, red, white, or green, no network wants someone talking as an analyst, as an expert, whose credibility is shot. So, I mean, we don't even get to the race question, the gender question, any of those tough questions. Just when you are a commentator, I'm a legal analyst, so I got to know the law. I can't get on and talk about, the weather. Don't hire me. I don't know what I'm talking about. So if you're a political analyst, you got to believe in the democracy, right? This is a democratic country. You can't be someone who has tried to overthrow the government and support insurrectionists. I mean, you just have no credibility. So, I mean, so many levels. I can't even imagine what the thinking was about what this woman could say, and how offensive it would be to have to sit next to her. Lest we forget how Trump attacks the media. He's doing this now, Sharon, with these judges. So when the courts decide something that he likes in his favor, he praises the court system. He praises the judges. So yesterday he had, his head was spinning around because he got a reprieve from the appellate court on that bond, that $454 million bond, got it knocked down to exactly what he wanted, $175 million, and 10 days more to get the money. And then he goes into which he hates, this tiny little state courtroom. It's not all grand like the federal court, where some of his other cases are pending. And this judge is unmoved by any of his lawyers' arguments and says, no, show up on April 15. We're going to get this criminal trial started. So then he attacks that judge, that prosecutor. So that's what Rona, that's what she's been a part of. When it works to her favor and their favor, they love it. And then when it works as it should work, but not to their favor, then they trash it.
Yeah, and see, that's what gets me so going here. Okay, you mentioned Donald Trump, who didn't deserve that reprieve he got, that fraction of the judgment, putting up the bond. That wasn't fair, but he got it. I'm so tired of people saying everyone's going to be held accountable, justice, everyone face. It's not true. If it were true, it wouldn't be years after January 6th, years of fraud, and we're just now getting around to holding this defendant's hand through the process. And back to Rona. Okay, here again, I just can't let it go. Only the best people. Everything you said is true, except when it comes to white people. It's just that simple. Who do you know who is a bona fide liar in the middle of an election year for the presidency of the United States, which is going to hinge on, can we save democracy? Who gets hired and then walks away, who's already rich, with a paycheck? You actually are a credible news organization who thought it was a good idea to hire a liar and had your largely white, brilliant hosts not revolted against her, they would have had her on. These are the people who stood next to this guy who talked about S-hole countries and where are my blacks, and far worse about black people. Remember, they embrace him because of his mugshot. Who are we kidding here? This lady's a joke, but the bigger joke is that she got hired in the first place. Where's Tiffany Cross? Where is Melissa? All of these people who he's
Where's
right.
Don
Right.
Lemon?
Better not open your mouth. Jamel Hill knows it, and a lot of other people who came before and after her know it too.
Well, look at Don Lemon. Don Lemon was a highly successful, highly rated, anchor on cable news, but he got, got in crosshairs with the bosses, and he was ousted. Yes, the list we can, call the roll, right, on African Americans who have been in far, less tenuous, less controversial positions, and they lost their jobs. I'm just sitting here thinking because, the Rona thing is so galling on so many levels for those of us who work in TV, because one of the things you do in these jobs when you're sitting there commentating is you're fact checking the candidate, right? So when Trump is giving a speech or Biden is giving a speech or whomever, you're sitting there, correcting the record. In the case of Rona McDaniel, you would have been sitting there next to her, fact checking her, reminding her, remember, you said something totally different just 2 months ago, 3 months ago. It would have been a disaster. I can't even imagine that someone thought that that was a good idea, because the backlash from the audiences would have been as great. Like I said, we can think about Megyn Kelly. That lasted a year. Disaster. Rush Limbaugh doing Monday Night Football, criticizing a black quarterback. He lasted, I think, about 4 weeks. So there are so many examples of these networks thinking people are stupid and they can just kind of cram anyone down our throats, and folks are fighting back. And yes, you're right. Had this been all black, well, the few blacks, it's not that many blacks, but the response probably would have been different. But when you have your star lineup starting with Morning Joe in the morning and Rachel Maddow by night and Lawrence O'Donnell, there was nothing else they could do. The woman couldn't have even walked in the building probably. And felt safe. It's horrible. And thank you. Sometimes you do the right thing, but you do it late. When we go forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. President Biden says he's in contact with officials in Baltimore after the massive bridge collapse. Speaking from the White House, Biden detailed the incident.
Officials at the scene estimate 8 people were unaccounted for were unaccounted for. That number might change. 2 have been rescued, 1 without injury, 1 in critical condition.
He says the White House is sending prayers to the families affected and added he's sending all federal resources. Memphis, Tennessee is hosting 21 city mayors from across the country this week. Mayor Paul Young is launching the inaugural Black Mayors Coalition on Crime, which will be held Wednesday and Thursday. Young says for the first time in history, there are an unprecedented number of Black mayors in U.S. cities. The meetings will focus on crime prevention and more. Dr. Russell Wigginton, president of the National Civil Rights Museum, will facilitate the 2-day event. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Delays in Santa Monica continue as now the center lane is blocked for those on the 10 West at 4th Street, with an accident causing stop traffic from 20th. Now as you continue eastbound between 20th Street and the 5101 interchange, heavy traffic continues now over an hour and 30 minutes. In Anaheim, an accident's been reported on the right shoulder at the 91 East before the 5 Santa Ana Freeway, and watch for heavy traffic at the moment from Beach Boulevard. Stall's been cleared from the 91 East after Gypsum Canyon Road. However, expect a 35-40 minute traffic jam in recovery from Highway 57.
Heavy rains causing serious leaks in your roof? Go to localroofs.com to schedule a free roof checkup and estimate with 5-star service. Localroofs.com serves Ventura, Santa Barbara, and northern Los Angeles counties, offering flexible financing options on approved credit. Go to localroofs.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Schedule times have been confirmed for USC and UCLA in the Sweet 16 of the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. Both teams are playing on Saturday. UCLA meets up with defending national champion LSU at 10 a.m. in the Albany Regional. ABC Channel 7 will have live coverage. USC will play Baylor at 2:30 in the Portland Regional, live coverage on ESPN. 5 of the 6 Pac-12 conference teams that made it to the tournament are in the Sweet 16. In addition to USC and UCLA, Stanford, Colorado, and Oregon State are still on the board. Utah lost to Gonzaga Monday night. It might be a good time for the Clippers to get out of town. They start a 4-game road trip Wednesday at Philadelphia. The Clippers have lost their last 5 home games by an average of 14.6 points. The Lakers confirmed that LeBron is not playing tonight at Milwaukee. He still has soreness in his left ankle. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader. If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. With eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
Talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back and we are breaking down today's trending news. There's been today has been a big news day. I'm sure you've heard that Sean Combs, the rapper, the entrepreneur, the music mogul, had both his homes, or two of his homes in Miami and LA, raided by Homeland Security officers yesterday. Also yesterday, music producer Rodney Jones, who filed a lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs last month, has now accused actor Cuba Gooding Jr. of sexually harassing and assaulting him in an amended federal complaint that was filed just last night. The amended civil complaint makes some pretty salacious allegations about Cuba Gooding Jr. sexually harassing Jones while on a yacht owned by Sean Combs while Jones was working for Combs on the album, the Love album. And I have a copy of the original lawsuit filed by Jones in a federal court last month, where he makes just a myriad of pretty uh, horrifying is, I can't even find a word for it, allegations against Sean Combs. I'm just going to read Sharon and Rashad just a brief part of one of the allegations, and this is involving the Chalice Recording Studio shooting. So this is from Jones's complaint. These are accusations, allegations. Nothing's been proven in court. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty. But listen to this. On September 12, 2023, Mr. Combs held a writers and producers camp at Chalice Recording Studio in Los Angeles. Present was Mr. Combs, his son Justin Combs, and his friend named G. Mr. G is a 30-year-old African-American male. In addition to those individuals, there are other musicians present. One evening during the camp, Mr. Combs, Justin, and G were in a heated conversation. The conversation was moved out of the studio into a restroom adjacent to where Mr. Jones was sitting. Mr. Jones was 2 feet away from the bathroom when gunshots rang out. Mr. Jones recalled hearing multiple gunshots. He immediately went into a state of shock and fear that he would be shot. Mr. Jones believed that he would be shot through the door due to how close he was. After the shooting ended, a crowd gathered around the restroom. When the door opened, Mr. Combs and Justin exited. G was lying on the restroom floor in a fetal position, holding his stomach and bleeding out of his leg and hip. Everyone stood around looking at G. Frustrated by the lack of aid, Mr. Jones dropped everything, ran to G, began placing pressure on his gunshot wound to his stomach. As he applied pressure, Mr. Jones realized that G was gushing blood from another area near his leg. He decided to lift G and place him on the toilet. Mr. Jones asked the crowd to call the ambulance. Jones lifted G and brought him to the ambulance at the front of the studio. At that time, Mr. Combs and Justin disappeared to another part of the studio. Mr. Combs gave strict instructions to inform the police that he had nothing to do with the shooting. He also forced Mr. Jones to lie to the police by telling them that G was shot standing outside the studio by a drive-by assailant. All right, Sharon, that's just one of the serious and salacious allegations in this complaint. What are you making of not just this complaint and all the allegations? So that's about a shooting that he's basically said Sean Combs or his son shot Mr. G in a bathroom and then instructed him to lie about it and to lie to the police. And I mean, the sexual allegations, we'll get to some of those a little later, but just that allegation, the raid on his homes yesterday, what do you make of all of this?
Here's what I make of it, Areva. When the feds show up and coordinate basically a raid at the same time in 3 different locations with that amount of manpower, gunpower, and the cuffs ready for anyone who's inside, and Mr. Combs doesn't even know they're coming, this is not going to end well. Yes, they're allegations, but that complaint, and I'm curious about your legal mind as a layperson, incredibly difficult to get through it, hellish and detailed. And I think even though these are allegations and you can't be certain all of it's true or some of it is true, I think the silence is deafening. Sean P. Diddy Combs has had parties for decades, and famous celebrities have been all over the internet posting pictures of their golden ticket, their access to these things. I don't hear anybody coming to his defense, not one famous friend. 50 Cent loves to troll Diddy. And even in jest, there's something to what he posted today. Where's Jay-Z? He put him on a milk carton as if he were missing. Why aren't any of these people who are friends who've been at the parties saying, hey, I didn't notice anything like this. I've known him for years. I've been to places. I haven't seen anything. And finally, is G one of the people that the feds will be sitting down with shortly? As the reporting has indicated, they have people on tap ready to tell things. Will they be? Because they can't lie to the feds. We know how that will work out.
So you did see a post by 50 Cent today, and what was the post?
He mentions Jay-Z, where's Jay-Z, and says, in jest, I hear he's not picking up for P. Diddy. Famous friends are fleeing, basically, is what he's saying. And that just got me to thinking about all of the celebrities who love to be part of that entourage. And again, the golden ticket from the Hamptons to Beverly Hills and onward. Where are they? Where are they saying, what are you talking about? None of this could possibly be true. And I'll just say this finally. I would hope that the people who are on social media, who look like you and I, who have a right to be skeptical of the Justice Department and the man, would also read the complaint, because the alleged victims here also look like you and I. I'll say that. And so we've got to not just think about celebrity. We've got to think about the allegations here. R. Kelly's accused of raping kids. That's really what it boils down to. Sean P. Diddy Combs is not indicted and he's not under arrest, but the allegations are horrific.
Well, there are allegations of rape against him in these civil complaints as well. And you're right, we're hearing that the feds are talking to witnesses, that they've already talked to 3 women, 1 man, and they have other witnesses lined up. I do want to read part of the statement from his attorney today. One of his attorneys, his name is Aaron Dyer, issued this statement. Said yesterday there was a gross overuse of military level force as search warrants were executed at Mr. Combs's residence. There is no excuse for the excessive show of force and hostility exhibited by authorities or the way his children and employees were treated. There has been no, I'm skipping to the end, there has been no finding of criminal or civil liability with any of these allegations. Mr. Combs is innocent and will continue to fight every single day to clear his name. Rashad, Sharon is right. When the first allegations came out involving Cassandra Ventura, who we know as Cassie, the internet was very, very hostile, angry, and clearly there to produce receipts to substantiate Cassie's allegations. But we haven't seen celebrity friends and famous folks coming out standing up for P. Diddy. What do you make of that?
I think Sharon is right. And we're not going to see it because no one wants to be associated with a pedophile or a rapist, a serial rapist at this, or a sex trafficking mogul. I don't, if that's a thing. And Sharon is right. 50 Cent's IG is lit. Comical as always, but the elements of the truth that are there speak volumes. The reality is this should have happened to Puffy 20 years ago, with the same disgust and disdain that I have for how the R. Kelly situation was handled, 30 years, right? It took 30 years to make that happen. Why is it taking so long? These accusations and allegations have been out there for decades. Why is it just happening now?
Yeah, when we come forward, I want to talk about that because this complaint talks about things that happened in the 90s. A very similar situation where Diddy shoots someone allegedly, as indicated in this complaint, and then someone is paid to take the blame, and someone, fesses up to a crime that he actually committed. Again, allegations in this complaint. We're going to talk about these sexual complaints, and Cuba Gooding Jr. has now been implicated. Lots to talk about. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Have you fallen behind on your water and power bill? LADWP has made paying your past due bills even easier. Sign up anytime online for Level Pay to get set monthly bills that include past due amounts, or check out the special extended payment arrangements of up to 48 months to help pay down your bill. Visit ladwp.com/cares and sign up today. That's ladwp.com/cares.
This Easter, March 31st at 11:07 a.m., ECM will be at the Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. We are inviting everyone to meet us there as we will be presenting the Black Resurrection Experience. What good is Jesus' resurrection if we are still living in cultural graves. ECM will present a stage play production that will address Black dignity, Black worth, Black unity, Black ownership, Black vote, police brutality, generational wealth, mental health, Black power through Jesus' power, and most of all, your purpose in life through the murder of Jesus Christ. And we will tell this entire story with singing, dancing, acting, rapping, with a little bit of preaching from yours truly, Pastor Chef. The Black Resurrection Experience. Easter morning at the Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. It's totally free, so come get your freedom.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment through the arts. Dia Chucha Central Cultural is on a mission to transform community in the Northeast San Fernando Valley and beyond through ancestral knowledge, the arts, literacy, and creative engagement. The Northeast San Fernando Valley has a population of about 500,000, the size of the city of Oakland, yet it has no bookstores, art galleries, or full-fledged cultural spaces until Tia Chuchas opened its doors in 2001. Founded by renowned poet and activist Luis Rodriguez, Tia Chuchas Cultural Center provides a year-round free or low-cost arts and literacy bilingual intergenerational programming in mural painting, music, dance, writing, visual arts, healing art sessions, and healing talking circles. Activities also include Mexica, Aztec dance, indigenous cosmology, philosophy, and 2 weekly open mic nights, one in Spanish, the other in English. In addition, they host author readings, film screenings, and art exhibits. To express yourself, heal yourself, attend an event, or volunteer, please visit www.tiachucha.org. That's TIACHUCHA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and in this hour, Sharon Reed and Rashad Frazier Gaines are joining me. We're talking about these explosive allegations against Sean P. Diddy Combs and the raid on his homes yesterday by Homeland Security. I just want to read another passage from this 73-page complaint that was filed in federal court by a former producer or producer that formerly worked with Combs. His name is Rodney Jones. He filed this complaint in a New York District Court, federal court, on February 26th. So in this paragraph, he says, Mr. Combs and Jay Combs, who's his son, Justin, solicits drugs and engages in illicit sex acts with minors and sex workers. On or about July 2nd, 2023, in California, Mr. Combs had a listening party at his home. Present at the home was an R&B artist, he redacts the name, Justin Combs, sex workers, and some underage girls. The event began at 7. Mr. Combs requested female sex workers and required Mr. Jones to solicit them. An hour later, several sex workers appeared. In addition to sex workers, there were at least 5 women in the crowd that were under the age of 16. Mr. Combs forced all the women to drink Lace de Leon liquor. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs laced the liquor with ecstasy. Mr. Combs did not check the identification of any of these underage girls. The presence of these underage girls made Mr. Jones very uncomfortable. He attempted to leave, and Mr. Combs forced him to stay. Mr. Combs went so far as to take Mr. Jones's car keys to prevent him from leaving. After forcing him to drink Lace de Leon shots, Mr. Jones began feeling lightheaded and recalls passing out, waking up at 4 a.m, naked with a sex worker sleeping next to him. Screenshots of a video from that night is embedded below. And what's interesting, Sharon, about this complaint is there are so many photographs. You've looked at it, you've read it, you've seen all these pictures and headlines. That's not common. You're asking for my legal analysis. Typically, when we file complaints as lawyers, we just state the facts. We may add details, but typically we're not producing the receipts, the evidence in the complaint, because it's not required to do so. I think in this case, Jones's lawyer knew that these allegations were in some cases so outlandish that folks wouldn't believe them. So rather than, get called a liar, which Sean Combs' lawyers have done anyhow, he did attach photos, but 5 underage girls under the age of 16. And Rashad and you both raised the point that this has been like the best known, not secret for decades. Why do we, as a community, Black folks, white folks included, particularly celebrities, enable conduct that then results in this potential criminal charges, salacious civil suits, the harming of young girls? Cassie, I mean, what she alleged in her complaint was just beyond crazy. Why?
I think it has to do and is rooted in the word value. We overvalue celebrity and we undervalue Black girls and Black victims. It's just a fact of what we do. And let's be clear here. I pass out at about 9 p.m. every night. I'm getting older, okay? I'm not going to be at P. Diddy's parties, okay? I'm maybe never invited. But at the end of the day, consenting adults can do whatever they want to do. It is not for me to police or even judge, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about an accusation that you prefer a certain entity, in this case, a human one that is underage. That is not about sex. That is about something else. And it's rooted in perversion and filth. Again, these are allegations, but they have sustained decades of scrutiny. They're still around after all this time. And again, I would just challenge us. There's that inside conversation and the outside conversation of our community. And several things, as Judge Mathis tweeted out today, can be true at the same time. He said, this is overkill, basically. This is too much, the show of force. That is what the judge, who I appreciate very much, said. That can be true. And horrific allegations can also perhaps be proven in a criminal court of law that we should not ignore just because we share a skin color, a race, and trauma from racism.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I totally agree. And I think most people will agree. If you saw those images of military tanks showing up at Sean Combs' home, not necessary. Literally, they knew the man wasn't there. They said they had security on staff. They just wanted to make sure that nothing jumped off with the security. Overkill. That's the militarization of our police force. We know that when Black folks are involved, we see that kind of militarized force more often than not. Disgusting and not right, but doesn't take away again from these allegations that are made. Rashad, let me read the Cuba Gooding Jr. because he's had his share of troubles, and here are some more allegations against him. Mr. Combs attempts to pass off Mr. Jones to Cuba Gooding Jr. Mr. Jones believed that Mr. Combs was grooming him to pass him off to his friends. This fear became reality when Mr. Combs introduced Jones to Cuba Gooding Jr. while they were on Combs's yacht. During the introduction, Combs suggested that Cuba, in parentheses, get to know Jones better. He then left them alone in a makeshift studio on the yacht. As evidenced by a video of which screenshots are embedded below, Cuba Gooding Jr. began touching, groping, and fondling Mr. Jones's legs, his upper inner thighs, near his groin, the small of his back, near his buttocks, and his shoulders. Mr. Jones was extremely uncomfortable and proceeded to lean away from Mr. Gooding. He rejected his advances, and Mr. Gooding did not stop until Mr. Jones forcibly pushed him away. And then he attaches a screenshot of the encounter with Cuba Gooding Jr. And now we have an amended civil complaint naming Cuba Gooding Jr. In that complaint. What do you make of that, Rashad?
Areva and Sharon, I mean, we over-sexualize Black boys and Black girls in our society. And that's something that we don't talk about enough. And I honestly think, Sharon said it best, this is rooted in perversion. I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. When we're talking about value and within our culture, these are the long-standing ramifications and side effects of slavery, right? I keep my mind, as we've been listening to this, participating in this conversation tonight, my mind keeps going back to the Boondocks episode of R. Kelly, the R. Kelly episode of the Boondocks. We knew this was wrong. Everyone knew it was wrong. But you know, R. Kelly's the king. He's a genius. He's the greatest musician of all times. And we would rather allow little boys and little girls, little black boys and little black girls to be hurt. We would rather allow them to be hurt than deal with the person. We overvalue celebrities, that is absolutely true, but we also overvalue wealth in this country. And you asked the question at the beginning, you said, why are we enabling this? We're enabling this because those people always get away. If the crime for being a pedophile and leading sex traffic rings and all of these things related to that were men being castrated, I promise you it will stop.
Well, you know, I think Rashad and Sharon, what's so shocking about these allegations, so Cassie Ventura's allegations date back, you know, over a decade. Jones's allegations, he's talking about things that literally happened, if they are true, 6 months ago. And he names music executives. And apparently he has attached a declaration from one of the executives. I haven't seen that declaration, so I don't know what it says. So everything we've said, we over-sexualize girls and boys. We undervalue Black women as victims. We don't believe Black women as victims. We believe we are unworthy. So we throw us away. We totally revere celebrities in a way that's sick and perverted itself. We totally revere those who have money and put them on a pedestal. And there are folks who want to be close to the seat of power, who want to be in the inner circle, want to be at the white party at the Hamptons, want to be, you know, at the cool, you know, Grammy party, that will turn a blind eye to this kind of conduct. But the day is over. I mean, Me Too has just exposed this kind of conduct in a way and are holding people accountable. I hope these allegations are not true. I hope no one is engaged with 16-year-old girls and under. I hope no grown man is doing that. I regret that Sean Combs' children are implicated in these lawsuits as well. I just hate this story all the way around. But at the end of the day, if Sean Combs did any of these allegations, he is not above the law and has to be held accountable. We're going to continue this conversation. Thank you so much, Sharon and Rashad. We are out of time. Always a pleasure to be in conversation with both of you. Stay with us. We're going to be talking about Rustin and Shirley, two amazing movies about Black iconic civil rights leaders. KBLA Talk 1580. Thanks, guys. What a great conversation.
Great
really
show.
appreciate
Yeah,
you.
I just think you're great. Thank you, Reva. See you next
Thank
time.
you, guys. Always a pleasure.
See y'all later. Y'all ladies are dope.
Okay. Ooh. Rustin.